Superannuation is about to undergo some big changes in 2025. So in this video, I'm going to take you through each change that will be coming into effect, how it could potentially impact your retirement plans, and be sure to stick around until the end of the video as I'm going to talk through one key tip that will make sure you're getting the most out of your superannuation, despite these seemingly endless changes to the rules. Now, the first change I want to talk about is the carried forward concessional contribution rules. 1 July 2025 is an important trigger for these rules. And for those people who aren't aware of what a carried forward concessional contribution is, this is quite a unique opportunity and option that anyone that with a superannuation balance below $500,000 on 1 July of the previous financial year has access to. What we're talking about here is a concessional contribution cap. So that's at the moment is $30,000 per person per year. And in the case where you haven't used that full $30,000 in each of the previous 5 financial years, you can actually carry forward that unused cap and use it all in a single financial year. Now, why is 1 July and why is 2025 so important? Because if your superannuation balance was below $500,000 last 1 July, but it might be above it this 1 July, then it's incredibly important that you get started and execute this before this trigger is hit. And similarly, if you have a big unused concessional contribution back 5 financial years ago, and again, this runs on financial years, not calendar years, this is about to disappear on 30 June this year if you don't take advantage of it now. Now, the second one I want to talk about is pension drawdowns. We know these change every few years based on how old you are, but if you've turned 65, 75, 80, 85, or 90 during the year, you'll need to change your pension payment from 1 July. Now, the minimum pension payment, this is the whole reason you get access to that tax exemption and the tax exemption on your pension balance. 1 July is incredibly important because this is the day on which the minimum pension for the following year will be calculated, but it's also the day on which your age will be calculated to determine that percentage. And of course, with pensions back to normal following the discounts they provided during the pandemic, if you fail to draw your minimum pension, your entire fund could be reverted back to accumulation phase, and you might suffer a significant tax bill at the end of the year. The third one I want to talk about is the superannuation guarantee. So this also reflects your concessional contribution limit, with superannuation guarantee being the guaranteed amount that your employer has to pay into your superannuation fund each year. From 1 July 2025, this is also set to increase. So the portion of your salary will go from 11.5% up to 12% overnight. Now, this typically forms a large portion of your concessional contributions each year. So we need to be incredibly careful. If we're getting 11.5%, now 12% automatically contributing to our superannuation fund, and we also have a salary sacrifice arrangement, or we were making after-tax concessional contributions from our savings and claiming the tax deduction against our own income, it's important that you review this and check this before the end of financial year to make sure you're not going to automatically or unexpectedly go over that cap, because we know that excess super contributions can be taxed incredibly punitively. The biggest one I want to talk about, and this has only been announced recently, is the transfer balance cap and the total super balance cap. Now, just to define these, the transfer balance cap is the amount of money you can have in the tax-exempt pension phase of superannuation, or essentially when you're turning your accumulation balance into a retirement balance and beginning to draw a pension from that. Your total super balance cap is how much you're allowed to have in super while still being allowed to make certain types of contributions, including non-concessional contributions, co-contributions, and receiving the offset for contributions made on behalf of your spouse. Now, we've been talking a lot about the impacts of inflation and what impact this is having on cost of living, the cost of goods. Investment returns have been quite good, but inflation is very much seen for the negative impacts. There is a positive impact for retirees and those planning for retirement, is that the transfer balance and total super balance caps are indexed to inflation, which means from 1 July 2025, you will no longer be able to get just $1.9 million per person into the tax-exempt pension phase of superannuation. This will actually increase to $2 million per person. That means you can have as much as $4 million as a family in tax-exempt pension phase that you can use to produce an income. And one of the things I stress the most as a financial advisor is how valuable after-tax income is for a retiree compared to before-tax income, given how much tax would be payable on higher income levels like this. Now, I put this very simply. If we assume a tax rate of 15% and a return of 8%, then what we're looking at is a saving of approximately $1,200 per year by having that extra $100,000 in pension phase compared to what was available this financial year. Now, if you think you're starting a pension before the end of the financial year, or you have a new pension using additional contributions you've made, it's important that you consider waiting and talking to a financial advisor about delaying the commencement of that until 1 July 2025, when those changes truly come into force. This extends to the total super balance cap. So this basically limits you to how much further money you can put into superannuation. If your super balance was over $1.9 million, you could not make any further non-concessional contributions. Yes, that will increase to $2 million, but there is also a graduate or pro rata increase in these caps. And again, this is where superannuation can be incredibly complicated. And I always recommend seeking advice around the full use of total super balance and transfer balance caps. And related to these, and probably relevant to only a small portion of our audience, is the defined benefit income cap. So for those receiving a defined benefit income, it could be public servant, people who have worked for different parts of the government or schooling or public hospitals or across the country. Under the new changes, you'll be able to have a defined benefit pension of $125,000 per person per year and still have an additional superannuation or pension balance if it's below that. That's an increase from $118,750 in 2024 to $125,000 in 2025. Now, for me as a financial advisor, the lead up to 1 July is the most important time for all those planning for retirement. The biggest thing I tell clients to do is take the time to review all of their contributions, investments, and plan strategies in May, and don't leave it to the last minute. This means you've got plenty of time to get ready for July 2025 and also avoid probably the biggest mistakes. Now, the biggest mistake I see is people not keeping track of their finances. They forget about their increasing income, or they don't change strategies they have in place, or they think it's set and forget. And the second, and one I stress incredibly, is that always use these rules to your full advantage. If you get your contributions wrong, the penalties can be huge, but the tax benefits, the flexibility and options that come with superannuation means it is central to living a fulfilling, successful, and consistent self-funded retirement. As always, please comment, please share views, please review, please subscribe to the page, and please let me know if there's any other issues you'd like to cover. And always, if you're looking for advice, please reach out to Waddle or any member of our team. We'll be in touch.